Hello friends, welcome to another episode of Bala and Bala Perspectives on Education. So I have an interesting topic with me here today. The debate about how much Indians know about India has been going on for many years. And all of us, I think, agree that the foundation for this has to be when we are in our schools. So today, the topic of discussion is going to be importance of knowledge of India in the school curriculum. To discuss this topic, like the title suggests, I have two Balas with me. On one hand, there is a Bala who's known to ask the questions, Mr. Giri Bala Subramaniam. And on the other hand, I have another Bala who's known to have all the answers, G. Bala Subramanian. Both of them don't need further introductions, so I will not get into their respective profiles. Both of them are well-known names in the world of education and knowledge. So let me get into this topic straight away. The first question here, sir, for you would be, why knowledge of India now? Why now in the school curriculum?
Well, the idea of knowledge of India has always been there in the curriculum for decades together. But the context in which we are examining the reinforcement of this knowledge to the younger generation is because of the national education policy advocating the theme of knowledge of India. If you look into the national policy of education, the very first statement says that the curriculum is India-centric. Okay, why India-centric? Because if you see the earlier curricula, you will find that the earlier curricula focused on globalization of education. Right. Our youngsters, our skilled forces from this country were moving to different countries, both for the software industry and all for other professions. And therefore, the people needed to know how they can go and live in other countries, how they can relate to people in other countries, what kind of cultures and habits they had earlier. But now the scenario of the work has changed. Now we don't have people going from our country to other countries, but the flow of jobs have moved from other countries to India. It's not only to India, it's true of many other countries. So we are moving towards nation-specific curricula, and in the Indian context, Indian-specific curricula, so that our people know a lot about our country, and it also is a good opportunity for promoting the interdependence of people and then the cultural harmony amongst the people, so that we learn to live better, we learn to live together, and we learn to encash on the resources available across the country, so that it can be equitably and equally distributed for a happy living for all the people. I think this is the right decision the national education policy could have taken.
If I have to extend the same question to you, what do you have to say? Why importance of knowledge of India and why now?
See, what Sir said is absolutely, bang on in terms of the large reason of why we require something like this in the context of globalization. So you're really talking of an India focus in a globalizing world. I look at it from a slightly different perspective than how Sir articulates it, which is we have a huge youth population in this country. If you look at the demographic divide of India, we are among the world's youngest of nations. Now, all of these people need their first belief to be their belief in their own nation. And belief in nation will come only when the knowledge about your nation increases. To me, while on the one side, yes, knowledge of India is all about culture, the wonderful heritage which we should not lose and we should preserve, to me, it's also contextual knowledge of India. It's entrepreneurship in India, it's opportunities of India, it's the changing landscape of India in areas like technology, sports, medicine, all of that which needs to make a child and a youngster in this country feel proud about his or her country. Second, have a belief saying, my future is bright in this ecosystem which I belong to, which is my ecosystem. So I think the combination of the two is very, very important, along with blending, since that's the current word and buzzword in the world, with heritage, traditions, etc. So that's really a flip of that coin that I would look at.
Okay. What aspects of knowledge of India do you think are required for children today? And these are children from, say, from K-12, because that's the schooling age that we have.
See, when you look at India, I think it's a concept to me. It's an idea to me. Every morning when I get up and switch on the All India radio, when you just talk about Sasya Syamala, Malaya Shitala, Matrubhumi, when you talk about that, the flora and fauna of this country, the kind of geography that this country has got, the kind of culture this country has got, the kind of food system this country has got, as a matter of fact, the habits the country has got, I think something which we need to be absolutely proud of in the country. But nevertheless, in the last 40 to 50 years, we have moved so fast, right from a country which was absolutely, farming based, to a country which is a leader in technology and software. We have migrated through several generations in a matter of a few years. So as Mr. Giri pointed out, it's a time that we need to be proud of this country, the youth of this country, and to educate the people of this country about the multiplicity of resources that we have. Either we look at the financial resources, geographical resources, cultural resources, as a matter of fact, the skill resources that we have, the architecture, the kind of painting, and I think something which is fabulous. No other country in the world can boast of the kind of richness that we have. As a matter of fact, we have failed to celebrate this richness of the country over the decades, and it's time, as was Mr. Giri pointed out, to enable our children, to facilitate our children to acquire knowledge and feel proud of this country, be it literature, be it technology, be it industry, or any field for that matter. I think India is a concept to me, and the concept of the country needs to be focused on for the younger generation.
So, sir's speaking about flora, fauna, geography, food, literature, so many other things. But you brought in a different perspective. We even spoke about entrepreneurship and the other innovations that we have had in India. What would you like to add to what sir has already mentioned on what are the things children need to know when it comes to knowledge of India?
See, I think, fortunately or unfortunately, fortunately we now have a focus. Sir rightly pointed out, perhaps in his first statement, that knowledge of India has existed at all times. The focus on that is enhanced currently because of NEP. It's not that the schools have not, or our grandparents have not been focusing on knowledge of India. But there is a structure, there is a focus, and there is a requirement currently. That needs to be catered to. But how do you contextualize? And to me, contextualizing learning is very important. Again, you should not repackage your moral science from the epics into something else and say that is only knowledge of India. It is not. To me, the knowledge of what a Ratan Tata has done for India, the revolution of a nano, what a Narayan Murthy has done to India, what a Dr. Devi Shetty has done to India is knowledge of India. What the young sportsmen and women have done to India is knowledge of India. What is going to make a child feel inspired, saying, I can be an achiever in this nation, is what knowledge of India can give. What a Dr. Kalam advocated, I think, right through his life, through his speeches, was actually the knowledge of India leading to what Sir rightly said, celebrating India. The combination of these two is what I think is required. It's not only to tell people, hey, we did this. It's about telling people, hey, we're proud we did this. The combination of the two is critical to create inspiration in our youngsters. That's my view.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we are staying very true to the title of this series, Perspectives is what we are talking about. Very different and varied perspectives on what knowledge of India can be. And we are not sticking to the traditional perspectives that we have had for many years when it comes to knowledge of India. There are so many other things that we can do, and we can educate ourselves and our children when it comes to knowledge of India. So let's move forward. Let's talk about future benefit for our children or our country if they have a huge knowledge of India.
I think that's a very interesting and important question. Unless we are proud of what we are, unless we are confident that we have the human as intellectual as well as the existential resources available to move forward, we can never grow. And I think the context in which Mr. Giri pointed about Ratan Tata and other places, that forms the foundation for the people to get the kind of the confidence to gain and move forward. So our children have started becoming entrepreneurs. The startups are growing up. In terms of wealth, the country has been rated high in the last couple of years over there. And I think we are instead of a follower in the world, we are now trying to become a leader in the world in terms of industry, in terms of modernity, in terms of foreign policies, in terms of several other things over there. I think this positional change of a country which has been a third world country, which has called an underdog, is now really developing into a leadership position in the country. I think that inspires the younger children that we are no more being ruled by somebody. We are a democratic nation. We are authentic about what we know, and we have a historical legacy of demonstrating and proving to the world that we can be global leaders. I think that is a powerful message that the knowledge of India will give to the youngsters, that it is not a record of past, but it's going to be the record of the future too. I think that's a message that we will get.
What would you like to add to what Sir has already told?
I have my perspective. Well, he's articulated very powerfully and very rightly on what he sees the advantages as. I look at it in a very simple way. We're moving into a world where the entire world ecosystem is about how you brand yourself, how you brand your institution, how you brand your individual self, how you brand your nation. Today, nations are brands. Now, the brand reputation of India is not going to enhance with only a passionate Prime Minister, whoever is the incumbent at whatever point in time, articulating with all his heart, passion and energy about what India means to him or her. India's brand will be built when every individual as a citizen becomes the ambassador of this nation. Look at a tiny nation like Singapore. You meet a Singaporean anywhere, the guy will speak proudly about Singapore. That's the pride they carry. You meet a German anywhere in the world, he'll speak proudly about Germany, he'll speak about German sport, German engineering. We need more and more of our people in the future to do that. Why does it therefore need to start in school? Because we're going to have more and more people who are in our schools today all over the world in the future. Because we are going to become the workforce of the world. And when that situation becomes a reality, you need more informed children about our country who will be powerful storytellers contributing to brand India. That's my way of looking at it.
Well, knowledge of India leading to a brand or a brand which is a country, that's a fresh perspective on that. But I also liked what Sir mentioned about how leadership can change altogether and will be of huge significance in the future if we introduce knowledge of India in a meaningful and relevant manner in the schools right now. So let's move on to the next question that I have for you. We'll start with you now. Should knowledge of India be stand-alone, or should it be centric to the entire curriculum that is there? How do you think that should happen?
So, one is what can it be, and the other is what should it be. Now, the what should it be comes from NEP 2020. NEP 2020 advocates it as a standalone focus area. It is one of the most important critical focus areas of the policy. Like Sir said, starting with the first line, India-centric, which means the very policy is built around those two words, India-centric. Therefore, it becomes sort of the nucleus of everything that this policy is going to do. Therefore, I think it's going to be a standalone. But if you bring it down to the manner of imparting or the way in which we need to treat it in the schools, etc., I think any form is okay as long as the knowledge of India is imparted. I'm not really too worried about the structure or should we have a 40-minute period. All of those will help. Sometimes for a country like ours, giving it a focus and a definition and a form and a shape helps better deliverables. It just helps. What bothers me more is when our children don't know our leaders and don't know our past. What bothers me even more is I was at a quiz recently and one of the children with whom I was conversing said, when I asked something about India and growth, and he said, but we are a young country, only 75 years old. Now, you are independent for 75 years. You are not a country that is only 75 years old.
That scares me.
Yeah, so there is those kind of perspectives that need to change in our children. You can't have a child going somewhere and saying, we are a young country of 75. Now, these are narratives which unfortunately people like us on television sometimes have imbibed in our children, that we are a young country of 75 years. We are not a 75-year-old country. So, whatever the method, the right messages of India need to go into our children, structured or unstructured.
Sir, the same question for you.
Well, I think, I would like both the standalone idea of the knowledge of India, and similarly the knowledge of India going as the core and the nucleus of all learning disciplines. Both are important. We need to maintain the synergy between both, because one very important thing is that when you talk of mathematics, when you talk of sciences, when you talk of history, or when you talk of art and architecture, music, dance, name anything, we have got a 5,000-year legacy over that. We have been masters in the world. And therefore, our children need to know that these are not the computer age deliveries to them. It is not a digital age knowledge, but it is more than nearly a Stone Age knowledge onwards. That's a kind of pride that will give to us. So I think that's a very important thing. And also, when teaching discipline like mathematics and sciences, if we can think in terms of the scientific perspectives our people had, so any idea that we were a country of mythology alone will, that will vanish, to say that we were people who had a great scientific temper over the last decades. As a matter of fact, the National Education Policy, when it talks about mathematical thinking and scientific temper, I said these are not new terms. We have lived with those terms for centuries together. At the same time, it's important that the people in this country need to know what happens on the other side of the country. As one who has traveled across the country, when I go to Nagaland and Assam and Tripura, I wonder how things happen over there, the kind of living culture over there. When I go to Jammu or Punjab, the kind of the joyful life they have. So when you look at the whole country, each part of the country has got its own strength and its own wealth to contribute in terms of knowledge, skills and others. I think it's time that we need to celebrate. It's time to accept that there is diversity in the unity. I think this knowledge of India is very, very important, that we are people with a diversity, celebrating university, so celebrating unity all across the globe. I think there is no other country which has got this much of diversity in terms of culture, languages, dialects, and say anything for that matter. I think we are a very unique country in the world, and we need to celebrate it. And that could come both by a standalone knowledge of the country as well as by the integrated approach.
Understanding the true essence of unity in diversity. This is something we have been learning, I think, from class 1, but have we truly understood what it means in the context of our country? So that is another perspective that should come out when it comes to knowledge of India being executed and implemented in our school curriculum. So my next question is for you. Are schools ready to deliver knowledge of India to students?
Well, that is the million-dollar question that you have asked me. To say that they are not ready will be, that will be very unfaithful of me being a teacher, right? And to me, whether they are adequately having information is something which needs to be debated. What is important is that in the current scenario, because we have a large number of young teachers who have come from colleges and universities, they have been focusing largely on the content and curriculum which met the requirements of their examination. Probably they have not been reinforced with adequate information about the knowledge of India. So all that is important is that we need to allow flow of information. We need to allow the information dynamics to penetrate into the villages and the others about other parts over there. We must promote tourism within the country. The whole world could be understood by traveling within India. I think that's where I think we need to prepare our children. I think it is time to break the classrooms or the walls of the classrooms and then let the children travel and see the country, see the world all around. And I think traveling is a very important aspect of education, and I have enjoyed that. And therefore, I would plead that the concept of learning should enlarge, and for the first route gateway to that is that my teachers are empowered on that. I think both the government as well as the schools will do a lot by conducting a large number of exhibitions about the country, not necessarily to their own area, but to the whole world around. I recall the famous words of Arabindo when he said, the learning moves from near to far. I think when you talk about India, empowering learning, what is near in our country is very important. And therefore, I think a little of exercise, a little more time to educate, inform our people will be good enough to move in this direction.
What about you? What's your view on that?
I have a view on the question itself. I think very often as a nation we suffer because we keep pondering on this question, are we ready? There is nothing called you are ready. The very definition of ready for me could be different for you, could be different for sir. Get started. What will happen? Down the line you will make iterations, you will learn one from the other and you will progress. You can't go colossally wrong on knowledge of India. The way in which school A teaches, B teaches, C teaches could be different, but the net result is the child's knowledge is going to improve. So I personally think, and I would like to plead with schools, don't get too obsessed with how I'm going to do it. Is this the right way to do it? Who is going to do it? Get started. Getting started is half the problem off the table, because then you are solving real life problems. Saying, this did not look okay, how can we do it better? That is a better problem to have than sitting and debating saying, should I do it? It's like staring at the moon and saying, how do I go there? Get going. You will reach there somehow. That's the philosophy I carry. Everything else I think will fall in place, because knowledge of India exists. You're not inventing it.
True.
We're just bringing it together. So how, in what manner, how long? And nobody here is turning around and telling you, you have to prepare for March 2023, 24 examinations for knowledge. No, it's a process. It's going to be a learning process. It's a cultural evolution that needs to take place differently, a learning culture. I don't mean culture as in the culture sense. So I look at it very pragmatically, just get started schools.
Well, just get started is what Big Brain says. I need a quick reaction from both of you for a statement that I'm going to make. We are discussing about the importance of knowledge of India and why our students or the citizens of our country need to have a good knowledge of India. But we are also not forgetting that they also need to have a global perspective and global overview. It can't be devoid of the global overview at all. So can I have a quick response from both of you on that, sir?
Well, I think, see, first we start from the home. And if I don't know about myself, I cannot try to know about others. Similarly, if I don't know about my house, it may not be good to know what's happening elsewhere. And I think, therefore, global knowledge will automatically come. When you talk about the history of thousands of years, people have always moved only from near to far. And therefore, I think, globalization is only an extension of the idea of our own country, right? India has always, professed that loka samasta sukhino bhavantu, the whole world, is a family, right? That way. So I think the world is a part of my family, but once I start about looking at what is my house, my family will be taken care of.
All right. What about you?
Simply because it is going to be global, and simply because globalization is something you're not going to be able to stop, you need to be extremely strong on who you are and your identity. I don't want to call that with the word local, but the knowledge of India therefore is important because of the globalization wave, and not to ignore India and take only the globalization. It does not happen that way. Take Japan, for example. One of the most respected companies in countries in a globalization era. They're super proud of their processes, their heritage, their ethos. They carry Japan to the world. That's what we need of India. That's my view.
All right, with this, dear friends, we come to the end of this particular episode of Bala and Bala Perspectives on Education. Thank you to both of you for joining me here today for this discussion. I think we have truly had very different perspectives on this topic of knowledge of India. So don't go anywhere, my dear teachers and friends. Join us in the next episode of Bala and Bala Perspectives on Education. We will be back with a brand new topic, and trust me, you will enjoy watching it. I'll see you there.